I guess just from a young age, I just saw other people were less fortunate than myself, and I didn't think that was fair. I guess it just has always been in my heart to help those who don't have access to those things.
Honestly, getting to Egypt, like within the first 3 months, I got shot at. It was like a scene from a movie.
And I have this beautiful photo of my mum and I in the orphanage where I'm just holding on to her and clinging her, and she said that when I'd come out to visit her, I would just run to her and go, "Mama, Mama." So I think I chose her, or she chose, I don't know how it occurred.
When we moved here in 2015, we didn't really know anything at all about avocados, so it was a real learning experience. It was like drinking water from a fire hose, so to speak.
What compounded that was that I ended up with a very serious back injury. So about 3 months after we arrived, it really gave out and I couldn't drive, I couldn't stand for more than a couple of minutes at a time.
In New Zealand's beautiful Bay of Plenty, along its pristine coastline, sits the region's largest and fastest growing city, Tauranga. The region's fertile soil bears a bounty of crops and has become the home of the famous kiwi fruit. Tauranga City is home to the country's biggest port. 6 minutes from downtown, you'll find Mount Maunganui, a popular beach for both locals and visitors who flock there all year round. Tauranga means resting place or safe anchorage in the Māori language, an apt name for a city that has attracted creative, caring and loving people of all ages who want to enjoy a wonderful life. Welcome to Finding Home, Tauranga, New Zealand.
Tauranga is well known for its kiwi fruit and its orchards. Yeah, it's just a beautiful place to live, and its climate is fantastic too.
Well, one of the biggest attractions here is the beach. A lot of people come here for long weekends. Really nice surf beach.
Tauranga is a great place to raise a family. It just seems a bit more of a chilled pace of life, and so yeah, we really love it, raising a family in Tauranga.
Full name is Daniella Rodica Anna Maria Brown, and I'm in Tauranga Moana. I live in Bethlehem in New Zealand. So I was born in Romania. I was born in an area called Jilava, and it's just out of the main city, Bucharest, and it was a penitentiary, so it was a prison, and it was one of the biggest political prisons in Romania at the time. What I know about my birth mother is the fact that she was incarcerated in Jilava jail, this political prison, under the label of being a prostitute. And I don't necessarily know if that was true or that wasn't, but regardless, I was born in a jail. From there, I was taken to orphanage numero uno, which was the #1 orphanage in Romania. That, incidentally, I just have to put this in there, was the orphanage that Michael Jackson did on his world tour. I wasn't there at the time. I'd already been adopted, but he did arrive there. When in 1990 the revolution occurred, it was revealed that all these babies were in these orphanages, and I think it was up to about 15,000 children. And if anyone of the boomer age group is watching this, they will know the footage that came up on the screens. I had a lazy eye, and so I was actually in the retard unit of the orphanage, so out the back. So something in my parents' heart was captivated. And I have this beautiful photo of my mum and I in the orphanage where I'm just holding on to her and clinging her, and she said that when I'd come out to visit her, I would just run to her and go, "Mama, Mama." So I think I chose her, or she chose, I don't know how it occurred. So I grew up on the Whangaparoa Peninsula, which is like the Tauranga of Auckland. Mum and Dad had 10-acre block where we had horses. They weren't our horses, they grazed them. My childhood was the good old days of you'd run around and by dusk you knew you had to go inside. So when I was in Standard 4, which is year 6, there was a whole bunch of us who refused to get our pen licence because our handwriting was so messy. And so I remember saying to them, being the charismatic one that I am, "Oh, it's okay, they're all goody goods, we can just be the baddie bads." And from then, our Standard 4 group became the baddie bad gangs, and baddie bad we were. I don't even know if my parents know the depth of what we did. We used to sneak out. We literally used to shoplift. I used to do initiations for those who wanted to be in our group. They'd have to go and rub off the chalkboard, and the teacher caught me one day and I had to redraw the entire dinosaur unit in chalk. Maybe it's because of that moment that I've become such an artist. So in 2014, I felt there was something in my soul and my spirit to return to Romania, not just to find my own story. Again, that kind of felt like on a back burner, because I grew up thinking that it was impossible to find my birth family. My parents had tried. I just never really let myself deal with it or process it or even imagine, because what's the point? It's never going to occur. So it's not that I didn't have any faith, it's that I didn't even put my faith in that basket at all. I just didn't even process it. However, in 2014, I had it on my heart to go back to Romania, to take a team of people to go to Romania, to volunteer, to give back to the place that had given me birth. And there was a lot of wise people who said going back with the team would be really unsafe, in terms of I needed to process it for myself personally. When I went to Romania, I cried every night for a week solid, and it wasn't homesickness tired, it was almost like recalibrating and reconnecting into the land. And it was almost like this grief that maybe for those whole years of growing up I never needed to process, but I think it was really healthy for me.
So in 2014, we were living in Auckland and my husband was working up there. My husband came home one day and he was just having a rough day at work, and he went online and he started looking at businesses online. And then he goes, "What would you think about moving to Tauranga?" Well, I never really had a real affinity for Auckland. I was always keen to get out of it, and I liked the thought of the climate here in Tauranga. The location was quite good, and it's like, yeah, let's get out of the city.
We're in the middle of our avocado orchard, and we've got just 75 trees here, about 0.6 canopy hectares, so it's not a very big orchard in the whole scheme of things. Typically would get about 50,000 avocados on average per year from it. When we moved here in 2015, we didn't really know anything at all about avocados, so it was a real learning experience. It was like drinking water from a fire hose, so to speak.
I had to learn all about the avocado orchard, and I was doing horticultural training. And what compounded that was that I ended up with a very serious back injury within weeks of arriving. I'd done the injury just before we left, and so about 3 months after we arrived, it really gave out, and I couldn't drive, I couldn't stand for more than a couple of minutes at a time. I couldn't do anything much really apart from lie around. I'd gone from being really crazy busy for a year to just having to stop and just wait for other people to do things for me because I couldn't do it myself. I happened to see an advert come up for a mortgage advisor role. Thought I could really enjoy that. And so I contacted them and I said, look, I'm interested. And so one thing led to the other, and within 2 months I was a mortgage advisor.
My name is Patrice Patel, and I've always loved dancing, music, everything. My mum got me into ballet when I was 4 years old, and I absolutely just loved it. I did ballet, modern, tap, hip-hop, contemporary dance for all my childhood, right up till I was 18. Got up to the highest grades in the world I could possibly sit for ballet, modern and tap dancing. And I was on my way to pursue a career in dance because that was my dream, to become this famous dancer. So I worked towards an audition that I wanted to do to get into a dance school over in London. And I was all geared up, wanting to do that as my career. And then I had a big injury and I went over on both of my ankles. all my tendons, they were all completely swollen and bruised, and I'd pulled my ligaments severely. So I had to completely stop my dancing, and I just poured everything into my studies, and my whole dream of becoming this dancer shattered. I decided that I would go and pursue a career being a primary teacher and just do my dancing on the side. Finished my teaching degree, and then from there I went over to London and I did 2 years teaching as a primary teacher there. And I went to Pineapple Studios, where all the professional dancers who dance in the West End shows, they go and train there, and I was training with them. Now, as an early age, so teaching was always the job. I was like, I want to be a teacher when I get older, but plus I want to be a dancer. But my dream was like, I just wanted it to be both together somehow. I got a phone call from a man, and he said, your boss has insisted I interview you for a teaching job that I have got in an international school in Egypt. And I go, Egypt? Like, where are you right now? And I said, I'm in Oxford Street in London. And he goes, so am I. And we met in Starbucks. And he started firing all these questions at me. And it was for a primary teaching position. And I just said, just kind of came out of me. I said, my dream would be to do performing arts of some sort. And he said, really? We have just built the biggest theatre in the Middle East at our international school. He goes, what's your experience in the performing arts? And I told him my experience, and I was very young. I was only 23 at the time. And he looked at me and he goes, I have interviewed a lot of people today who have got way more experience teaching performing arts in the international schools. But he goes, I don't know why I feel I should say yes to you. And he goes, I'm going to say yes to you. I feel like you could do it. And he hired me on the spot. Egypt, it was something else. It's a different world, complete different world, and we don't realise. You know, when we've been brought up in our Western culture, you just have no idea how other cultures work and how much danger a lot of people are in all the time. And that's their life. Honestly, getting to Egypt, like within the first 3 months, I got shot at. So on the way from travelling from Cairo to the Red Sea, you have to travel in a convoy because it's quite dangerous in Egypt. We ran out of petrol. There was 8 of us in this van. We ran out of petrol and they continued. We stopped, got petrol. We came to the next checkpoint and all of a sudden we just heard bullets going on. We all hit the deck. They told us to come in, and they were like with the AK-47s shooting out into the distance and motioning for us to come forward. So then we got forward, they pulled us out of the van, they put us in this concrete room, they were handing out bulletproof vests to all the army men. So everyone was crying, calling the embassy, saying we don't know what's going on because everyone's speaking in Arabic, we can't understand. Then finally they pulled us out, said us it's safe, got in the van, they started shooting again from the outside. We couldn't see because it was pitch black out there, and the army men just protecting us, shooting back at them. It was like a scene from a movie.
So my name's Amy, and I'm very lucky to be married to my husband Travis, and we have 2 beautiful boys, Reef and Ari. I met Travis by getting set up by my sister. I was overseas at the time, and I kept hearing about this good-looking guy called Trav.
So she came down and I thought, yeah, she's a lovely lady and I want to get to know her more. And so applied for a job down here in Tauranga Hospital, and she got the job. So she moved down, and that was the start of our relationship together. She's just the most compassionate, loving person that you would ever meet. I've never met anyone so patient and loving.
I guess just from a young age, I just saw other people were less fortunate than myself, and I didn't think that was fair, and always just thought I'd like to be able to change that and do what I can to help, knowing that I've lived such a blessed life and have never gone without anything. I've always had all my needs met. I've always had a loving home, a loving family. So yeah, I guess it just has always been in my heart to help those who don't have access to those things. And yeah, I guess thinking back to high school days, I'd always be the first one to sign up for the 40-hour famine and get other people on board. And yeah, it's just always been something that I've kind of focused my life on. So I'm a nurse, studied up in Auckland and did a couple of years at Starship, so I went straight into paediatric nursing. And from there I've done some work overseas, but I'd more recently been working at the Tauranga Hospital in the children's ward. In the middle of my desires to head off and do more, Travis never really considered going overseas and doing some volunteer work, and we decided we'd headed off to South Sudan, which I worked as a nurse and Trav worked as a builder mechanic, and all-round just amazing guy helping everywhere.
There was so much information swirling around with regards to my birth mother, and I only had one photo to go from. And so this was her identity photo when she was 14. Me creating this, I wanted to study her face. It's the closest I've ever been to her. And I guess for me, it's also a reflection of myself. And so I've never done a portrait like this before. Normally I do portraits quite, abstract. Angelica Mazilu, A Story Untold, born here. Her grandfather died when she was, there was so much in her story that's never been told before.
Daniella's travels to Romania would lead to the unexpected.
On the third time I was in Romania, there was a UK family that had set up a residential unit for those with HIV and AIDS, and for those in Romania who've been institutionalised, who are orphans, and let alone then the stigma of HIV. These people are the poorest of the poor, and this family set up 15 years of service to that community. I went there with a friend from Palmerston North, and we sat there and I just wanted to hear their story, etc. But what she did was she took it back to me and she said, she guessed it even though I never opened with it. She said, "I know you're from Romania." Oh. And I said, "Actually, yes, I am." And she asked a little bit of my story, and then she said, "Would you like to be reunited with your birth family?" And I was like, "Oh no, that's okay, thank you so much." Went back to volunteer with them just by myself. Again that night she said, "So, do you want to be reunited with your birth family?" And that's when I thought, you know what, let's just be bold. Sure, yes, let's go. And so what occurred within 24 hours, and I no joke, it was literally 24 hours, they were on the phones the next day, ring the clerk at Giana, and they rang and they said, "Oh, we're looking for, in Romanian, we're looking for Angelica Mazilu, which is my birth mother." And the clerk on the other side of the phone, she was like, "What? Just this day, we've had someone else ask for Angelica Mazilu. We've never heard that name before, and we've just been heard it twice in one day." And then within a week, I was standing under the roof of my birth sister's house. And so I met my birth brother, and I can't even describe it. It's like discovering that you have a third arm that you didn't realise you needed. It is surreal when you've grown up not knowing anyone biologically your own and being okay with it. Almost like a cherry on top of my identity to see someone biologically my own.
Daniella.
So what we're about to do tonight is we're going to be meeting with a group that has been organised by the Pacific Island Community Trust, and we're going to be presenting a seminar which will help them get into home ownership. We've got a couple of topics that we talk about, and one of them is about how to use KiwiSaver to grow your deposit, and the other part of it is about debt and the impact that it has on people's lives, how much it costs them.
My name is Robin and I work as a mortgage advisor, and one of the things I'm really passionate about is helping people get into homes that might have otherwise not realised that they could.
Housing for Pacific community and families is a Kiwi dream. They work hard and they want to establish a stable life for their family, for their children, and by creating this Kiwi dream, which is a home for the family, it's going to be an asset for them as well, and it will lead on into the next generation.
When I became a mortgage advisor, it was not just a job like I expected it to be, but it was actually more of a mission, because you're connecting with people and connecting with their dreams, their futures and their lives. When they discover that they can buy a home, it's actually really, really life-changing for them, and it changes everything about what they are and who they are.
After a successful run of shows in Egypt, Patrice moved back to New Zealand to start an amazing venture.
Went around schools and said to principals, I can direct and produce your musical in 4 weeks, and 5th week bring them to the theatre, and you can have your school production complete with costumes, sets, an original musical, all original songs, all online learning.
So you're in that ready to go. Do you have your costume ready to go, Wiki?
Yeah.
Open up that mouth, tell the story, use your expressions, remember your gobsmacked secrets.
I have to learn all their lines before I even get there. So when they come and see me, they'll do their lines, and I tell them how to do it properly and how to express themselves. They've got to make sure, the secret is, you've got to make sure that you get the people right in the very back row. They can see your face, they can see everything. So everything has to be bigger than life. So seeing these shy little children, not quite sure on how to get out of their shell, being able to give them that confidence, that encouragement every day. You can do this. You can do this. We make sure that every script brings out strong character traits, morals, values and themes that they can apply to their life, and they'll always remember that story for the rest of their life. So this is my costume room. This is where 6,000 costumes live, just here. So we've got 11 musicals here with 400 costumes for every show. So they all live in this costume room. So this is where the magic comes from. I think the beauty of performing arts is you bring the whole community together, and it's really important because performing arts uses all your senses. When you're a child, you remember your school productions and you remember your camps. And why do you remember those two things from primary school? And it's because you use the most senses. They've got butterflies, they've got to perform this dance, this act that they've been working so hard for. They have to do it to all of their family and friends who are watching them, and everything that comes with that, they remember that for the rest of their lives.
South Sudan, the education is lacking, the medical care is almost nil. Access to clean water, access to just mosquito nets and just basic clothing and things, it's not there. It's one of the most primitive and hard done by countries. The poverty is insane.
So on our first trip to South Sudan, we finished the clinic that had been previously started by someone else. But our second trip, we built an inpatient ward. So all the sick patients that come to the clinic, they can't go home, they need a ward to stay in. And so we built a new ward. It was a 30-bed facility.
A lot of these mothers, they'd be tempted just to take their child to the witch doctor. Very unwell with, say, pneumonia or malaria. Their culture is take them to the witch doctor. If you build that relationship with them, then they sense that they're loved and that what we're doing is actually good for their child. To me, it's so important to help people because we're all the same, no matter what colour skin we have, no matter where you live, no matter what kind of upbringing you've had. We're all humans, we all have the need to be loved and to be valued and just to have our basic needs met, to have all those basic things that we just take for granted in New Zealand. that's what inspires me to help people.
So I grew up in church, and I would often choreograph dances, creative expressions for my church events, things that would be televised all over the South Pacific. I got these opportunities so young in life because I went to church.
Dear Heavenly Father, thank you so much that you've gathered us here tonight, and thank you for these amazing children in our community and from our schools all over Tauranga that can come here tonight.
Okay, wait. We'll do the first one. Hands up if you think she sprained her foot.
It's a lie.
Is a lie.
I think she did sprain her foot.
It's always been really obvious to me that God's hand has been in my life, and regardless of your birth story, you can have that understanding that you are an orphan to God, not worthy of his love, removed from his love, or you are adopted into his courts, into his inheritance, which means he saw me and he chose me.
So when I was meeting with the Pacific Island Community Trust, the first thing that we're sort of thinking about was, well, where do we have this session? Where should we run it? And then I thought, well, actually, we've got a venue here. Why not use our own church? It's there, it's available, it's the right space, I'm familiar with it. So why not run it at the church? It just makes sense to do it.
So I go to Tauranga Seventh-day Adventist Church. We worship on Moffat Road in Bethlehem. What is so great about our church is that it is my family. I am not physically near my family. When people come to Tauranga Adventist Church, they see families, they see real people navigating a real world, trying to be responsive in the community, learning, growing.
Just get behind anyone who's got something they need help with. When we were rallying around to go to South Sudan and raise the funds to get there, they just got behind us, and it was incredible.
So the Tauranga Adventist Church meets on Saturday morning at 9:30am for Bible study and a discussion group, and then at 11am they have the church service.
The church is always friendly. There's people that come in, always welcome you. They say, hi, how's your week going? But they really care about you.
We all need a family, people who love us, encourage us, and who will be there when times get tough. At the Tauranga Seventh-day Adventist Church, people like us have found a warm and welcoming community they now call home. Why not visit the Tauranga Seventh-day Adventist Church this Saturday morning at 25 Moffat Road in Bethlehem, Tauranga? You'll find what Daniella, Robin and Patrice each found: a loving community who supports you and a place where you belong. Why not drop by this Saturday and find the home that's been waiting for you?